This is Archana Malhotra in your online session, World Sparky Baat. Today, I shall again say thank you to the BOM. They have been working relentlessly and tirelessly to ensure our safety and sustenance. They think of everything, be it our walks, kids' online sessions and playtime, and informative sessions like World Sparky Baat, which give us all the opportunity to learn and discuss about various issues from the top leaders. Rakesh, thank you for all the time and effort you are putting in to organize these sessions. You are the backbone, as I just said. And for everybody, we'll throw open the discussion for questions from you as the session progresses. A big thank you and support to everybody for your patience. So on popular demand and considering the extreme need of the hour, we again have our own Dr. Ravi Kasliwal here with us today. He needs no introduction really. Most caring and compassionate, he always has us Spartans close to his heart. Adjunct Professor Cardiology, Chairman of Clinical and Preventive Cardiology Vedanta, he has a career spanning over 4 decades, along with all the experience. Today, more than ever, we need his guidance and support. We welcome you here, Dr. Kasliwal.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And thank you for, sorry?
No, I actually wanted to thank you and Rakesh and then the BOM for the fantastic work that you all are doing. You know, some of the lectures have been outstanding, truly outstanding. And the way you do it, it's amazing. So please,
thank you so much.
You are the boss. Whatever questions I can answer, I'll try to do it as best as I can.
Yes, definitely. And I really thank you for taking out your time and agreeing to share with us your knowledge and guidance. So I start, in India today, there are about 25,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19.
Yes.
Out of which 775 have already died, and there are 5,100 cases which have been already cured. Okay. So before I start, important questions about the tests and the treatments. It's been an extended period of lockdown. What I want to ask you is that how should we go about it after May 3rd? Do you think we should stay at home or continue the walks, or probably increase our exposure to 4 to 5 people maximum at a time? Over to you.
I think you asked the most difficult question to start off with. Predominantly I'm an optimist. But as I've seen this pandemic come up in front and then the way it is progressing, I have not become a pessimist, but I think I've become more of a realist. You know, whenever persons come with heart attack, they say, don't worry, we'll take you to the lab, we'll open your artery, you'll be fine. I cannot say the same thing here. So assuming we are all, after May 3rd, May 4th, assuming that the lockdown is over, I tell you, it will be a difficult period because we will have to take all the precautions that we are taking today. That is an absolute must because the full force of the epidemic may have not even come as yet. What is the good news? Well, we are still in phase 2. We've not gone to phase 3. That's a good news. But you have seen Jaipur, you've seen Ahmedabad, you've seen Mumbai and Delhi, how they have exponential. And yesterday I was listening to the DM from Ahmedabad. He said, you know, by the end of this month, May, we may have almost 5 lakh people there with this disease. Even if he's wrong by 10%, it's a huge number of people. So not to start on a pessimist note, but to start on a realistic note that please, the first 3 things that we started off in our first interaction a month back, we will have to continue that. We will have to mask ourselves. We will have to keep social distancing. We will have to develop an etiquette for sneezing. We will have to just follow the rules to the hilt. Shoes outside, clothes that you worn everywhere should go, bath, all these things have to continue because the enemy is totally invisible. We don't know where it will strike. And you know, the biggest danger is asymptomatic people. People who may be the closest to us, They have no symptoms. They say, look, yeah, I'm fine. What's the big deal? Let's take off our mask. Let's talk. But they may convey to you when you didn't even know it. So later on, as we progress, I have a list of who are the 5 kinds of people. So we'll have to divide that by now. But to straight answer your question, what will happen after May 3? Let me give a straight reply carefully. Very, very carefully. I know everybody wants to go out and, enjoy and things that we've been deprived of. But the lockdown has shown us that we are able to break the rate of transmission significantly. If you look at it, people were saying so many more people would not make it in India. The list has been relatively less sad, though we bleed for those people who died for no reason. I mean, they were normal human beings. This guy took their lives away, which is so sad. So we will have to continue to be very, very careful. And all the parameters that we set in the first time, we'll continue the same parameters after May 4th. If it opens up, I don't know what truly will happen.
So, what are your thoughts on opening salons, the small grocery shops, etc. in the lockdown period, which the government has just put in today?
Ajay, there is a big difference between a salon and a grocery. Groceries are required by everybody. Salon, we can wait, and it's a very intimate contact on the salon. Now that you've asked me, see, there are 5 kinds of people. We'll have to divide them into people who are infected, people who are presumed to be infected, those who are exposed, the 4th are not known to be exposed or infected, they are the best, and of course those who have recovered. So we will have to see. If we are asymptomatic, don't think that we will continue to be asymptomatic. Somebody who's in front of you gives you that aerosol spray of the virus, and there you are. You've got it. So you have to see very carefully, where do you stand? Have you recovered from the disease? Are you not known to be exposed or infected? Have you been exposed? Or there is a presumption, and those who are infected. So yes, those daily things that we require, you will have to open up, and there we can easily go distance ourselves and go and buy the things. So that's what I would say.
What's the status now on testing kits and the ratio of people who get to be tested vis-a-vis the probable cases?
Yes, that's a very good question. See, they say that if we use 1 lakh testing kits per day, then we'll get to the last person in India in about 37 years or so. So that's where the state is. So we will have to, what the government is doing now is very, very good. That we have green zones, orange zones, red zones. Like a place nearby to us, Lokra and then Jharsa, Binlog. Now there you can do testing on a much better level. But see, even the RT-PCR test has its own sensitivity and specificity. Nothing is 100%. So even if you're tested not or COVID-19 negative, maybe it was a false negative. A false negative test means I had the disease, but I tested negative. It's the Bayesian theorem, which we use very commonly in medical tests. So we have to be wary about that. But I think one of the important things is symptoms. Do not suppress symptoms. If you have them, come out. If it's because of common cold or if it's because of pollution, it will come out. Of course, there is no pollution now, but it's easy to find out. But if you have symptoms, you may infect others who are asymptomatic right now.
What's the ratio of current footfall, sir, COVID versus other problems in the hospitals?
People are afraid to come to hospitals, and rightfully so. They feel that, if I have a problem relating to some other specialty, but I may get this disease. However, most good institutions are totally separating these two parts. What we have done is that those who come with acute heart attacks, for example, you can't say that, no, we won't treat you. But we have a questionnaire ready. They fill in the questionnaire, And instead of taking them straight to the angioplasty lab, we may even do medical therapy for now, give them clot buster drugs, and we give them and do the COVID tests. So what we are pursuing with the ICMR is to have test reports and test results as early as possible and not wait for a day. If we can do that, half of our problem will be sorted out. So other specialties, and I was talking to my co-chairman in other specialties, slowly and slowly, people, because they have problems, non-COVID-19 problems, and they say, well, we have to come. Even today, we ran OPD, several patients did come up. So we are separating them as far as possible. And all our staff has got masks and they maintain distance. I mean, it's not nice to be sitting 6 feet away from a patient, but that's what the new world is going to be. It's going to
So
be
as far as good hospitals are concerned, they are separating the probable coronavirus patients
Yes.
from the other patients.
Yes.
But what about when people walk into the hospital? There is always more of a chance of other people being affected.
Yes.
Because when I walk in, I mean, suppose I have a pain and I come in with my husband, we both are walking in as any other patient, and that the other person walking next to me could be a probable patient. So the chances increase multiple times.
That is exactly the reason we are allowing only one attendant per patient. When we are taking a questionnaire both from the attendant as well as the patient. See, now the thing of have you been abroad? That is all gone because that period is over. That incubation period is over. Now it's a question of where do you live? Are you living with somebody whom we suspect could have been infected? So those are the things. So we actually, before we actually come to the patient's symptomatology, there's a lot of time you have to spend in sorting out their other issues. But that's going to be the new norm. I mean, I can tell you the world is not going to be the same once all this happens.
So let me come to the tests now. The primary tests today are the polymer chain reaction or the PCR tests. How
Yes.
accurate are they, and what's the time taken for the result?
Yes. So the reverse transcription qualitative polymerase chain reaction test actually picks up the viral RNA from your nose, for example, and then they take it through the machine, and it requires a high quality swab. I mean, if you have just superficially taken a swab, the virus may not come. It goes deep inside, and then you put it through the. This has a much lesser chance of a false negativity if properly performed. That is the reason that even when we discharge a COVID-19 patient, not that we have any right now, we would like to do 2 such tests and then be very sure. But the quality of this test and this thing is quite good. It's a standardized test. And it tells you, this is the one test which tells you, yes, we picked up a RNA, the virus, it's an RNA virus from your cell. So please be cautious that you are a person who's infected. The other test is the rapid antibody test. Now, as you asked about the results, what we are trying very hard is that if this report can be available within 2 hours or an hour or so, it will make the life of cardiology patients, for example, easier. Because if they are getting an acute heart attack, they're willing for an angioplasty procedure, then why not give them the best if this test was negative within an hour or 2? Right now, it's taking at least a day or so. The other test,
the IgM test, the test which detects antibodies with human prick samples. Please tell us about it.
This test has the potential to become the game changer. It is a rapid antibody testing kit, which will give you the idea of IgG and IgM. And very nicely, you can use it in those people who are asymptomatic. This is an antibody test. Very simply, our body has many types of globulins, these are small proteins. IgG is the one which tells me that, I have the capacity to fight this guy. IgM tells me that I have the infection. So the kits which had come to the big city from China did not perform. So now there are other companies like Roche and Abbott who are top companies, if the government allows them, and I'm sure they will, this test will tell you very clearly that can you fight the infection or you can't fight the infection. Whether you were asymptomatic but you had the infection and you have enough IgG in your body, you are good to go. So what my team told me, that definitely by the third week of May, or at least the last week, we will have these tests available all over, and Medanta will be one of those tests. So this will be really good to have such a test available.
That's great. We need tests, and also we need the quantities. Exactly. Until that time,
our Institute of Virology in Pune is doing phenomenal work. What it is also doing is it will give you the level of immunity. So it goes as 8, 16, 32, 64, like that. And if you're on top of the line, it tells you that you can just go ahead, you can do, doesn't mean that you can get exposed once again, but at least these are the people who can go ahead their normal lives, of course, keeping all the things in mind. So this is what we call as the rapid antibody testing. And the first one was a RT-PCR test, which requires this thing, and the antibody test is from the blood serum or the blood itself.
Archana, may I ask a question?
Yes, please, Vipinji.
Okay, one I've told you about the Arogya Setu, that I don't want to repeat that question, will come up. The other is Ravi. The Serum Institute is doing a lot of good work along with the Oxford University on some kind of I think it's either it's a remedy or it's I think that's more for the detection, I think.
That's more of a cure. I was just coming to that.
Actually,
and the plasma test.
I'm sorry. I think let's do like this. Let's do our homework first, which covers most of the topics, and then we can have people ask questions. Because you made a very good list of questions, I think which is all encompassing. So let's do that first.
Okay.
So it's very important. I'm going to talk about the cures now. And as Vipinji just mentioned, there's this company in UK also, which is they're testing, and a couple of more people are also now testing. And some of them are successful. Some of them are not successful. The thing is that along with the latest developments, there's also plasma therapy. I want to just share with everybody. In the first week of April, a business family from South Delhi had 3 of its members testing positive. The eldest of the 3 succumbed to COVID-19 at 79. His wife recovered. And their 49-year-old son on ventilator support since April 8th, after testing positive, was not showing any improvement. On 14th, after finding a donor, the doctors did convalescent plasma therapy treatment that uses antibodies from the blood of cured patients. And within 4 days of this transfusion, he was taken off the ventilator and finally tested negative on 20th April. So what exactly is plasma therapy, and what are the future prospects according to you?
Okay, good question. Related to, again, IgG. So the question is, you have to take plasma from a patient who has been infected and has recovered. That is essential, because these people, we assume and we presume, have high levels of IgG, which I am giving to a person who's ill, whose body didn't have the innate power to fight, didn't have the IgG. That's a very simple concept. Now, this case study which you are saying, it may be slightly flawed in the sense that right now, what the ICMR has given its concurrence to is for those who are admitted COVID-19 positive but have moderate disease. And even the moderate disease is specified that their SpO2, their oxygen levels are equal to or less than 93%, and the respiratory rate is more than 24%. Let's say, just for example. So this is a study which you just can't take out blood from somebody and give it to somebody. It's well defined. There are pros, cons, and there's a complete system with which it works. So what they have said is that you can use it for those who are moderately ill. Those who are mildly ill, I know, we all know, 18% will anyway come out without any problem, just supported treatment. But those who are going towards a serious problem are the ones, before they go into that, we can do plasmapheresis and give them 200 ml of plasma into their system. So one person can actually save 2 people's lives. But these are patients, these were people who were patients of COVID-19 and have plenty of IgG, which we just talked about, and they can give their plasma. Again, these will be done at good centers where plasmapheresis is available and under absolutely good conditions, stable conditions, we can infuse it. That's where plasmapheresis is. Already, the ICMR has started a pan-Indian study, and many institutions are a part of it. People have to come themselves and say, look, we've been saved, we want to save 2 other people, 3 other people, and then we can go ahead with that. This therapy is called convalescent plasma treatment, and this offers promise without any medication or anything being involved in it. Does that answer my question?
Yes.
Does that answer your question? So this is a forthcoming method, and very clear cut, that we will only take it from patients who recovered, who had COVID-19 disease by SARS-CoV-2. That's where it is. I'm in touch with our Dr. Sachin Tiwari, who is the expert on that, and he has said that this offers.
And can I now request you about the vaccinations, the quinone, chloroquine, and the hydrochloroquine? So
first of all, these are not vaccines. Okay. These are medication. I'll tell you the sequence because as a resident in Sawai Mansingh Medical College, at that point of time, malaria, tuberculosis, cholera were the biggest threats to human Indians, out of which the quinine used to be given for patients with malaria. Then, because it was so bitter, it had so many side effects, Indian pharmaceutical industry made a further compound called chloroquine. Chloroquine was available in small pills and had equally the same results as quinine. Very bitter, had side effects. Then it evolved into a salt called hydroxychloroquine. That is what Mr. Trump said will be a game changer and will change the face of the disease. None of these things happened. It was neither a game changer, nor it made any difference to the disease. In fact, it caused more side effects. I can just quote a latest study from the Veterans Administration study from the US, where it was found that when given to critically ill patients, it thrust the patients into the ventilator. Yes, this drug, hydroxychloroquine, is used for lupus erythematosus and for rheumatoid arthritis, but in different doses and in chronic ones. Our Indian Council of Medical Research was very clear that, look, ladies and gentlemen, we don't know how people will react, but to our caregivers who are being exposed to COVID-19 patients, we can give them as a prophylactic. That's where it is today. We are also a part of that study. It's called, and that study is going on. The data will be collected. But all over the world, and many people just scoff at it that, why are you using this? Because it also has potentially side effects on the cardiac system. It can cause a lot of arrhythmias, rhythm disturbances. So that's where it is. So these are medications given by mouth. what you asked was a vaccine. According to my literature right now, and according to what I've been told by my doctor from the UK, who's an epidemiologist, he feels that the Oxford University group, led by Sarah Gilbert, will probably come out with a vaccine by May end. Now, this surprised me, this surprised many people, that these studies go through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. But however, they are quickly doing it. The first 2 patients have already received the doses. And our National Institute of Virology is already in the process of actually making this, that if it comes out to be as the Oxford group claims, then this can be used very quickly, and that truly will be a game changer. If somebody can detect that you had or you didn't have immunoglobulins, and another guy says, look, I can give you the vaccine, that combo will truly be the game changer. And is it around the horizon? Yes, it is. That's what my information is from the UK. The other vaccine was being made by the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation, and their first testing only will start by June. These people are very clear, by June they will start in a big way. Who is true, who is not, I will only tell, but this time is not years, no? The time is only May and June. So this is the vaccine. Hydroxychloroquine is a medication, and of course nobody uses quinine now. Quinine is so bitter and it was against malaria. Let me say here one thing. If you look at the other countries, when they do tests for 100,000 people, 40,000 are found to have asymptomatic carriers. Only 4% are in Indians you find the same thing. Maybe, and I'm telling you, this is just maybe, that we have innate immunity, which we have got during our childhood from malaria, subclinical infections, which is helping us now. However, this could be wishful thinking and not the reality, but my immunological colleagues say very clearly that there's something which is helping us. So we should not push that too hard, but continue to do all the good things.
So before I move on to seniors and heart and other problems and some other questions, I want to ask you some of our friends' questions. I'll start with Atul's question. Life in China is normal and the rest of the world is in a mess. How is that possible, and how much do we know coronavirus?
The answer here is, we know a lot about corona, but do we know a lot about China and Chinese? That's the important thing. I mean, it just defies imagination. The only explanation they give is that this is herd immunity, that we have had so many infections that most people are subclinically infected. They have good levels of IgG, and we've been talking about IgG this whole evening. And as a result of that, now they are protected.
So another question is that, does everyone has IgG, and how to improve IgG of someone who's having low IgG? Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yes, so that's exactly what the vaccine will do. The vaccine will increase its levels in those who have low levels of that. See, it's just like during childhood, we used to get Bacillus-Calmette-Guerin BCG for tuberculosis. And it protected us for 15, 17 years and then gave us enough immunity, or smallpox or polio drops or whatever. That's what a vaccine will do. I cannot truly answer the question which Atul has asked about how this COVID-19 is behaving in China. I can't superficially make a comment that, look, some things look fishy. I can't say that. But whatever literature is coming out, people all over the world are struggling. I mean, Italians are on the forefront of science, Koreans forefront of science. But see, their patient 31 infected 5,000 people, when on that day, South Korea had only 8,000 patients. So we do know that this invisible enemy can devastate us. So as long as we don't have a vaccine, we don't have rapid testing antibody kits, we should just continue to be doing whatever we are doing, because there will be no point, it can, what it can do beyond.
So Rohit is asking, a symptomatic person, does it imply that the person's immune system has overcome the virus and thus given immunity? Or is it a chance that the person did not get a full-fledged infection but can be susceptible in future?
Sir, a symptomatic person should not be at home. A symptomatic person should be quarantined in a good facility where they have respirators, they have doctors who understand it. There is no treatment as of now. It is only symptomatic treatment. So don't take a chance, because as long as you are in an environment with vulnerable people, you are going to infect everybody. That's what Britain started with. That we'll have a few infected cases, then they will give it to a few, and then herd immunity. See, science doesn't go that way. Nature takes its own toll. So if you are infected, boy, you should be away from this whole thing.
So Mr. Rakesh Gupta is asking, I understand that recent study by doctors in Bombay noted that the incubation period is found to be not limited to 15 days. Your thoughts on the above?
Yeah, this is a common knowledge that the incubation period goes from 4 to or even to 20 days. See, exactly, Mr. Rakesh Gupta's question is so correct. This is what makes this enemy invisible. If you had a tsunami, you can see it in the sea. That guys, get out of here for 20 miles, which nobody should be seen, because they will kill us the waves will kill us for 20. But what his question says very clearly, you don't even know it. The person sitting next to you says, "Oh, I'm fine. I got a PCR test done, and one test is negative. It doesn't make strain." And he is the person, she is the person who's given it to you because they were incubating. That's where the whole crux is.
Mr. Rakesh Khanna is asking, if a patient is on a ventilator for more than 2 weeks, how long will it take for the patient to recover? And would the person be left with long-time damage?
I can't say that. It depends upon when the patient comes out of the ventilator. What is his lung function tests after that? And very importantly, what are his other conditions? Is he high blood pressure patient? Is he a cardiac patient? Is he a diabetic patient? All these will come into play once he gets off the ventilator. That is the crux. That is the important thing.
And Mr. Vishnu Prakash ji is asking, sharing that the South Korean biodiagnostic company SD Biosensor has started production of rapid test kits at Manesar. Capacity 5 lakh units per week. Is that correct? He says there was a media report.
To be honest, I just heard that such a thing is going on, but I truly didn't know that they were from South Korea or they had such huge capacity. They will be godsend. I tell you, they'll be godsend if they can do this work. It will be just amazing. And this will help us economically. Then most of the patients we can release and then wait for Sarah Gilbert's study to come home, give us good results. Then that day I will say that truly there is light at the end of the tunnel. Till that, I'm saying it's only flickering.
Okay, and now I ask you the question which I was postponing until now, Bipin ji and Rakesh ji. Your question about the Arogya Setu app. How feasible, how good, what about the app? Should we download it now? We've seen or not? We've seen various mails on this subject at our portal. What are your views and what do you suggest?
No, the main thing is not about this Setu. The main things that I heard from people is the privacy issue. That was the main thing, that it can trace you, track you everywhere. So that they have to come to terms with themselves. I downloaded it, and if you honestly answer all the questions and you get a green line, then it shows you are green. But I will feel very comfortable the day I get a rapid test done on myself and all my unit members and my family members, and they have a lot of IgG. Only then I will feel satisfied.
Okay, anybody wants to say? Vipin ji, you were saying something, please.
Yeah, now I can take Dr. Vipin's question.
Okay, so I think.
Vipinji, please mute. We can't understand. We can't hear.
Is Vipinji saying something?
Yeah, Vipinji is saying something. He's unmuting himself, I think.
I think the question was actually answered about this cooperation that's going to take place between the Oxford people and the Serum Institute in Pune. They seem to be sounding very optimistic. Even one of the CEOs from the Serum Institute was interviewed yesterday, and he seemed to be very optimistic that by the end of this month or end of May, they should have be able to produce actual quantities of these this what you may call it, serum or a,
the vaccine. This is a true vaccine.
Yeah, vaccine, preventive. Yeah.
And if this comes out to be correct, which I hope it will, then this is probably the shortest period of time in the whole universe that a vaccine has been made, and which is so effective. This will be just amazing. It will change the way face of science.
Good, thank you.
Yes, Gautamji.
Yes, Gautam.
Ravi, firstly, just wanted to ask you, firstly, we are fortunate to have you around with us. Just tell me, God forbid, if we do have a case in World Spa, now, do we follow the red tapeism, go to the administration, or we just ring up Medina, send the ambulance, send the patient across to the Manesar facility which you have set up? Or we have to follow, because at times, I'm told, it takes hours together to get a person in.
Gautamji, very good question. I had a meeting with James and Ashwini the other day, and along with Colonel Yadav, a whole protocol and SOP has already been made as to how we detect the patient, how we take them down, how from the car to Manesar, or right now the Fortis Hospital, Manesar will open in a week or so. All these have been actually, because it is not only the patient, but the immediate people around the patient, they also will have to go along with that, and they will not return till that quarantine period is over. So that whole paper, I think James and Ashwini will make it to everyone, because then that lift has to be disinfected, and so they have everything. They have the PPEs and everything to do all that, and to ferry the patient out. There is no red tapeism at all, as I understood from these three gentlemen, and I do hope we never have a patient, but if we do, the drill is already there.
I understand the protocol, you set up a protocol, all right, but the administration plays a bigger role in a case. I was just thinking, in case we do have something, do we send an ambulance, we take the patient straight away, inform the administration later on, or we have to go through the administration and come?
No, you just have to tell the administration at the World Spa, so that they will make all the arrangements. They've got the list of all the hospitals, the ambulances, whom to contact. They have everything. I have gone through that personally, and I think that they will be very quickly be able. They can do it far better than if we were doing it individually. That's what my
I was talking from the World Spa point of view only. Okay.
I'm only talking from World Spa point of view.
Yeah. Well, another question is, see, what I perceive once the lockdown does open, it's going to take a couple of months, a couple of years together when things will normalize. Because I don't know where I go out, what is my immunity level, and I don't know who do I contact with, do I get it or don't get it. Now, you said the antibody test. To test my immune system, if I'm 70% okay, I'm good to go. Now, can anybody pinpoint I'm 50% okay, I'm 20% okay, I'm 70% okay? That's one. But in case I do have a problem, can you give me some boosters to immunity level immediately on a fast track basis?
Oh, you were saying that if you have a problem, then can you fast track? No, what is going to happen once the vaccine and this rapid testing comes up, we will tell you the places where you can get this done, and their interpretation also will be told to you. The Viral Institute at Pune will tell you exactly your level, whether you are at 8, 13, 32, or 64, and then your local physician will tell you, well, are you adequately covered or you're not covered, and should you be vaccinated or not vaccinated? Because on the level of IgG, they will tell you that. So these things will go hand in hand. But even if you get the IgG test, it gives you a lot of handle on where you stand vis-a-vis your propensity to fight the disease. That is important, because if you don't have IgG to that extent and you only have IgM, then you are obviously liable to get the disease.
Wait, what I'm saying, Ravi, do I take vitamin C, vitamin D, Chyawanprash, anything you think of that means can build up an immune system overnight?
You can take whatever you want, Gautam, but these things don't work. IgG is a very different thing. It's like when the BCG vaccination first came out, people said, sir, you are giving me, this disease is caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis. You are giving me Mycobacterium bovis. मैं सर उससे नहीं मरूंगा, इससे मर जाऊंगा. But what the vaccination did was that it gave you subclinical immunity to fight the Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and it turned out to be so successful. So this is what's going to happen. No amount of all the other things are actually going to increase our immunity. Our vaccine will give us that immune system will be boosted up against a particular thing, and that particular thing will be SARS-CoV-2, which causes COVID-19 disease. That's what's going to happen.
So, Mr. Sharma,
but let me just complete. Gautam, you have to have good health and regular exercise and all those things, because if your general immunity is not good, obviously you are in trouble. Yes, Ashna.
Yeah, quickly now. Mr. Sharma and Atul are both asking, can a virus be created in a lab, which is currently the most serious allegation against China?
See, I have read the article written by the Nobel laureate who actually discovered HIV. His name is unpronounceable to me. I have no knowledge of the French language. But he did say that this was actually made by them in their lab, and it's not in the wet market. So many people say that if it was so clear, then why did they reopen the wet markets again? However, truly as a clinical scientist, it's not in my prerogative to comment on that. But really, I feel that something has to be investigated, because Luc Montagnier, that's his name, he alleged that Chinese coronavirus is a man-made virus, and he's not a small guy. I mean, he's a Nobel laureate who actually discovered HIV and saved hundreds and thousands of lives. So that's what he says. That's what he has said.
So some of our questions here have already been answered. So you can look at the recording now, friends. And Rakesh ji's question is, why is this disease more dangerous for older people? How do the older people increase their immunity?
Yes. So exactly what Gautam asked.
Yeah.
By older people, you have to qualify older people with disease. It is a myth that it cannot affect younger people with disease as well. It does that. So we are the diabetes capital of the world. We are the hypertension capital of the world. We have disease of the arteries of the heart. All these will make you vulnerable. So it's not about increasing your immunity in a certain way, but it is about healthy living. Your blood pressure should be normal. Your sugar levels should be fine. You should be those things are important. And if you are generally a healthy, you will fight the disease as anybody else.
Archana, I have a question. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please, Vishnuji.
Thank you. Good evening, doctor. There's a bit of a paradox that of the about 197,000 deaths that have taken place so far, more than 160,000, or in other words, 80% of the total deaths are in the first world countries. 80%, and these are the most affluent countries with the best of medical facilities. Granted that the median age in these countries is higher, and that will increase mortality. How do you account how do we account for this disproportionate number of deaths?
I want to ask a question. Now that COVID-19 is
Okay, let me answer this question. So his question is that in the first world countries, see, the thing is, medical facilities may be there, but medical facilities don't give you longevity. No? You have to be healthy yourself first. So what happens was that he's citing the example particularly of, let's say, Italy, for example. So the median age of the people who died in Italy were those people who had heart dysfunction, who had high blood pressure, who were diabetics, and who had coronary artery disease. Obviously, when you have these intercurrent or comorbid conditions, you are more likely to catch any disease. Why do we give Pneumovac, a simple streptokinase pneumo vaccine, after MI? Because we know that after an MI, the patient is more vulnerable. In fact, I have a board meeting on this tomorrow, that we should be, so this is how it is, that diseases make you comorbid.
No, bear with me,
But the important point that we are missing here, and that's a very important point for India, that when you test in India the same numbers that you test abroad, lot less people come out to have positivity, which means there is an innate immunity in our systems, which is probably saving us from the rigors of COVID-19. That's what it is. Apart from the fact, and this is very well known, that elderly people who have comorbid conditions will obviously be more likely to get the disease because they are not in the best of health, and the invasive RNA virus that this COVID-19 is gets into the system very quickly. It goes through the epithelium of the lungs and can devastate within 24-48 hours. If you are already on other medication and if you have chronic obstructive lung disease or things like that.
So one or two more questions from our viewers. Mr. Banga had just raised his hand and he wanted to say something. Mr. Banga?
Hello.
Yeah, Mr. Banga, please.
My question is that since there is no vaccine for this COVID-19 and there is no cure, will it remain throughout the life in the atmosphere?
No, we were just at length discussing about this, that a vaccine and a quick detection system will be there by the 3rd or 4th week of May, as soon as that. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, we should fully protect ourselves. Otherwise, we will be in a lot of trouble.
Last question by Nargis ji. Nargis ji.
Thank you. Doctor, for adult seniors, we are both Daddy and I over 75, and it was recommended that to boost the immune, we take calcium, D3 and zinc. So is Zinconia 50 a good tablet to take?
Yes it is.
Okay, great. And it's safe to take it even if you have diabetes?
No, absolutely safe. These are only vitamins. They are saying that zinc is safe. So, there's a preparation called Bicosol zinc is selling off the shelves like anything.
Great. Thank you so much.
Archana, before we leave.
Yes.
People have talked of lots of things which are generally depressing. Let us talk of very, very briefly what my father used to say, and this is the lifestyle polypill. People are quite used to taking a pill with a statin, aspirin, and saying that, look, maybe we won't get heart attacks. But let me give you the mantra of lifestyle polypill, which is very clear and good. Proper exercise, proper diet, relaxation, positive thinking, and proper breathing. Why I mention this is that the World Spa, the BOM, has been kind to us. In most societies, you can't even get out. Let us give full importance to this lifestyle polypill. But also, while we do all these things, we should not dangle our mask in our hands, but actually put it where it is required. I'm reminded, yesterday I went to the medical room, I saw a young father who was masked, and he had a 2.5-year-old child who was masked too. And I really wish I could take their picture. This is the discipline in Spartans. It was just amazing. If we go by this discipline, vaccines will come, we don't know when, the tests will come, we don't know when, at least we will be able to fight this dragon who has been unleashed on us without our doing anything wrong. That's the lifestyle for it.
Very, very valuable. Yes, Suresh.
I had asked the same question. I had sent it to Dr. Kasliwal, Dr. Dean Ornish, reversing the heart disease. And what I practice yoga. And Dr. Kasliwal rightly said the 5 points, which are the key or the pillars of Shivananda yoga system: the relaxation, the exercise, the diet, the positive thinking, meditation, and the pranayama. So these are the things which are already clarified by Dr. Kasliwal. I firmly believe that this is one way of keeping us healthy and away from this terrible disease what we have.
Thank you, Surenji. Thank you, Dr. Kasliwal.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you all very, very much. Thank you.
We have 2-3 more questions, quick ones today. Probably we'll extend by 2-3 minutes, but I'm sure everybody will excuse us. Why are heart patients at a larger risk from COVID-19, and what are the extra precautions they should take?
No, true. That's why I come here every day, to protect my cardiac patients from the ravages of COVID-19. Same thing. It's not about heart patients. It's about general vulnerability, because you are on multiple medications. You've had procedures done. You are not the same as any other person. So be careful. Be more careful, because your body may not be able to take the rigors of this. So, and that's what Italy teaches us, and that's what United Kingdom taught us their cases.
So another question which is away from
please continue to take all your medication regularly. Do not think that this SARS-CoV-18 we can stop the ACE inhibitors like perindopril or telmisartans. Don't stop that. Do take all your meds very regularly, even more regularly now that you're at home and you're into a system of exercising at home. You're in a system of healthy food. You're in a system where you're surrounded by your most loved ones. Do take your meds. That's very essential.
So one question which is away from COVID-19, but it's an important question nevertheless, and we have this opportunity to ask you. Why are younger people becoming so prone to heart attacks now? I mean, that BMW guy, 46 years old, and there are so many more examples.
Yeah.
Why this now? Recent years.
It has nothing to do with the COVID era, actually.
Exactly. Yeah. It's
exactly.
Different.
Yes. It's because It's because we have higher levels of LDL cholesterol. In fact, I'm speaking to about 8,000 cardiologists on Tuesday, and I can give you that link. You all can listen to that. That we are more prone to getting heart attacks, but definitely, Archana, I will try to cover that on a separate issue, because it's an issue by itself. That when people only talk about elderly people getting it, that's almost a myth in India. Younger people, elderly people, all of them are prone to it. But our eating habits, even at home,
lifestyle.
When people are in front of their computers, their lifestyle. That's why I said I'm giving you a lifestyle polypill. So it's the lifestyle that matters. And I tell you, I see so much grief in the emergency room. I mean, it can affect anybody's mind. What is this here? The guy's only 31 years old. He's got a young wife and 2 kids. What the hell am I doing? My colleagues from abroad always tell me that, look, what are you guys? I mean, you are opening arteries at age 30. We don't do anything till age 65. By the age 65, I am not saying a person should get a heart attack, but I'm saying that at least his basic responsibilities in the world are in a sense over. Even at 65, they should not get it. Japan has a group of people who are above hundreds. So Ashna, we will keep that on a much better note. When these dark clouds have parted, there is some silver lining. Then we'll talk about our own problems.
Thank you very much.